Good morning. Welcome all of you. So, we are going to have a brief discussion on silence of the being is the first natural aim of yoga. Silence of the being. So, that is the first natural aim of yoga. That is the topic of discussion for right now. We know we have beings here, and moreover, the thing when we speak of the silence, it is the inner silence we are speaking. Most of the time, we feel we are silent, sitting quietly or thinking something else. But while we speak of the silence, it is inner silence. Sri Aurobindo quotes nicely, silence of the being is the first natural aim of life. Naturally aim of the yoga. So there is a question put to Sri Aurobindo. Some people are dissatisfied. They are not. They don't find satisfaction in it because Mother Sri Aurobindo clarifies they have not overcome the vital mind which wants already always to some kind of activity, change, doing something to happen. So there is a question put to Sri Aurobindo that some people like X they are not getting satisfaction, and Sri Aurobindo clarifies that they have not to overcome the vital mind. We have got different kinds of mind in us, and of course Sri Aurobindo specifically concentrates on the vital mind in the way through the process of course explaining here in the course. Vital mind which wants always some kind of activity, change, doing something, and something to happen. These are the four major characteristics with the vital mind. It seeks some always wants some kind of activity. Number two, some change. Number three, doing something, and number four, something to happen. So the eternal immobility of the silent Brahma in a thing, eternal immobility of the silent Brahma of it is a thing that does not release. So when emptiness comes, it finds it dull, inert, motionless. So, in just silencing the being, that is the most major objective. That is the aim so far this yoga is concerned. So, Sri Aurobindo quotes vital mind it always wants some kind of activity, change, doing something to happen. So, the eternal immobility of the silent Brahma is a thing does not release here because it is fluctuating, all fluctuations with the vital mind. So when the emptiness comes, when there is the approach of emptiness, it finds difficult, inert, and motionless. So the major thing, what is the aim, what is the objective, that is actually silencing the being. So against here in the course on the vital can't take an interest in a blank condition. Already we have discussed four activities of the vital mind, that is some kind of activity, change, doing something to happen. So it can't take interest in blank conditions. This silence actually it does not take any interest. So, steer in the course, if you depend on the vital, you can't prolong it. If you depend on the vital, you cannot prolong it. It is the spirit that feels a release of the silence, empty of all mental or other activities. So you have to go deep within. That is the topic. Already in the beginning we have talked that silence, that we want, that silencing the activities of the mental vitality is a must. So for that for in that silence it becomes self-aware. That great silence, inner silence, sometimes we have read already eternal silence, it becomes self-aware. For the blankness to be real, one must have got into the purusha or witness consciousness. For the blankness to be really real, most of the time we feel some blankness sometimes, but actually to be real, one must have to got into the purusha or witness consciousness. Again, if you are looking at it, your mind or vital, then it is not blankness. For even if there is not a distinct thoughts, then there must be a mental attitude or mental vibration. So thing is that something gets happened and get disturbing, so that psychic awareness or spirits awareness must be there, so not feeling any interest. So some type of phenomenon like mental attitude, mental vibration, it is there, for what it is not feeling interest. Again, Sri Aurobindo quotes that all experience are not accompanied by joy. Sometimes we complain that we complain if this joy is not there, we don't find joy. So Sri Aurobindo quotes, all experiences are not accompanied joy, accompanied by joy. Interest is another matter. So all very interesting, very top message from Sri Aurobindo. All experiences are not accompanied by joy. So interest in another matter. If it is not, then you interest in another matter. Again, Sri Aurobindo quotes that already we have seen that there is no reason that the void should be dull or unhappy condition. Sometimes we feel there is also we complain that something is dull, something is the condition is unhappy. That's what is clarified by Sri Aurobindo. It is the habit of mind. That's what Sri Aurobindo wants to quote. It is the habit of mind and vital to associate happiness or interest only with activity, not the psych. It is not the matter of psychic. So the habit of mind and vital, the habit, usually the habit of mind and vital is to associate happiness or interest only with activity, but the spiritual consciousness has no such limitations. Spiritual conditions has no such limitation. Again, Sri Aurobindo tries to explain on the blankness is only a condition in which realization can come. That blankness already we have known, we have read couple of most of the many times we have quoted. If you wish to install there the living presence, keep the temple clean, become a clean slate so that universe and world soul can write on it, be the void. Blankness is the, here Sri Aurobindo quotes, blankness only the condition in which realization has to come. If aspiration is needed for that blankness, because this blankness is absolutely necessary for that for the realization to come. If aspiration if aspiration is needed for the blankness, if that aspiration is required, it has to be used more useful. This aspiration is most useful. If the realization comes up itself, if the realization comes up itself, then of course the aspiration is not necessary. So how the realization and aspiration, how they are related, that's what Sri Aurobindo initially quotes. Blankness is a necessary condition in yoga. The blankness condition in the realization, blankness is only condition in which realization has to come. Blankness is absolutely necessary for that. If aspiration is necessary, not always of the primary importance it has, so it has no that much primary importance that you feel. If aspiration is needed, it has to be used. If not needed, realization is coming of itself, then the course of course the aspiration is not necessary. Again, we are going a little bit Sri Aurobindo course. The state I was speaking on the was not blankness, something else. I Sri Aurobindo course that a state in which aspiration is not needed. Just now we quoted, aspiration is not needed if the blankness is coming of its own. Then such a state is not blankness, but a condition in which mother's force is present to the consciousness and doing everything. So when you that is the already just in now we have explained the thing very interestingly. If it is necessary, then if aspiration is needed, it has to be used. If it is realization is coming of itself, that realization is coming of itself, then aspiration is not necessary. So for that the question was put, aspiration is not necessary, not needed. So such is not the blankness but the condition. It is the condition on which, in that condition only, mother's force is present to be to the consciousness and doing everything. Um, against your in the courts, the preconditions, pre-requirements. Every kind of realization, infinity, self, cosmic consciousness, the mother's presence, light, force, ananda, knowledge, Sachidananda realization, the different layers of the consciousness up to the supermind. All these are every kind of realization, every kind of realization, like infinity self, cosmic consciousness, a mother's presence, light, force, ananda, knowledge, Sachidananda realization are different layers of consciousness up to the supermind, layers of the consciousness up to supermind. All this can come in the silence of the which remains but ceases to be blank. Requirement, it is there all these can come in the silence. Everything can come in the silence, not in the external silence, but the inner silence, eternal silence. What is quoted by Mother Sri Aurobindo. All this can come in the silence which remains in silence, which comes that remains, but ceases to be blank. Again, that silence, Sri Aurobindo clarifies a little bit later. The silence can remain when the blankness has gone. The silence can remain when the blankness has gone. All sorts of things can pour in, and yet the silence still remains. All these things can remain, can pour, and yet the silence still remains. But if you become full of force, light, ananda, knowledge, etc., but when you are full of force, light, ananda, knowledge, etc., you can't call yourself blank any longer, because it will pour. That silence will be there. So silence, for that only silence, for that only the master clarifies. Silence can remain when the blankness has gone. Again, the next condition and the next steps here in the course, all sorts of things can pour in. All sorts of things can pour in even when the silence still remains. But you can become full of force, light, ananda, knowledge, etc. You can't call yourself blank any longer. That on spiritual blankness during the course, if it is the spiritual emptiness, then it will not be felt as interfering with the sadhana, not interfering with the sadhana. If that spiritual emptiness, if it is spiritual emptiness, then it will not be felt as interfering with the sadhana. Again, one beautiful thing has been explained here. We have seen that the fall of consciousness. Most of the time we feel that the fall of consciousness, sometimes we describe, and of course we fear for it. No, so if somebody is conscious, naturally there is a phobia, there is a fear, that like fall of consciousness. That's what has been that fluctuation has been well defined and well explained by Sri Aurobindo. The falling down of consciousness comes usually by some inertia. Falling down of consciousness usually comes by some inertia coming in the consciousness through fatigue, through mere habit of relaxation, or it comes through some vital reaction which one may or may not notice. So, here in the course, couple of things like fall of consciousness. Most of the time, we find usually it is an inertia coming in the consciousness through fatigue or through the habit of relaxation, through fatigue or through habit of relaxation, or it comes through some vital reaction, through some vital reaction which one may or may not notice. Vital reaction is there. Sometimes inertia, fatigue, or through the habit of relaxation, or it comes through the vital reaction which one may or may not notice, and it comes through the wrong movements of the mind. For that only you can find the fall of consciousness. Usually it comes through fatigue, through habit of relaxation, or sometimes through vital reaction. You may or may not notice it, or comes through the wrong movement of the mind. So there are the positive lowering causes. There are positive lowering causes, but at the back of them, the fact is that these alterations are almost inevitable so long as the consciousness in any way subject to the old nature. Anyway, the intervals of the non-sadhana, the interval of non-sadhana may, however, be long or short. interval of non-sadhana, sadhana and non-sadhana may be long or short according to the inner circumstances. So already we know sadhana means everything relates to the inner circumstances, mainly the power of will or psychic or the higher being to restore quickly to the true poise. So interval of the non-sadhana may be long or short according to their awakening, that awareness of the inner circumstances. Inner circumstances here in the course, mainly the power of will, psychic, higher being to restore quickly the true poise. So it is a, great call from Sri Aurobindo. Sri Aurobindo quotes beautifully. Still on fatigue, even if there is physical fatigue, sometimes mental fatigue also there you can find. So even if there is a physical fatigue, sometimes it will not be in, it is not inevitable that you should interfere with it, it should interfere with the sadhana. The inner movement can always go on. Inner movement can go on in the process of sadhana. It is this physical fatigues not to definitely it will not interfere constantly. Against your in the course, when the physical consciousness prevails, while the physical consciousness prevails, upon one does not feel any sign or effect, even if the experience is there. So finally, Sri Aurobindo comes. After one has to go to certain stage of things gained by are never lost. They may be covered over or they may return. They have only gone inside and some back to the surface. So this up down and it is coming, it is doing, it is being done. Again, it is as when you learn a lesson, you have to report it till the physical mind gets hold of it. Suppose you learn a last lesson, you have to report it to the physical mind gets hold of it. Otherwise, it does not become a part of consciousness. So, sadhana is there, blankness you feel, realization comes, and you find sometimes the voidness, that black void you most of the time you thinks you're in the course, that voidness is the best condition for a full receptivity. I am void, I am nothing, everything has been cleaned, it is like a clean slate. That voidness is the best condition for a full receptivity. Voidness can come from anywhere. Here in the course explains, voidness can come from anywhere, mind, vital, or from above. Emptiness usually comes as a clearance of the consciousness. Emptiness usually comes as a clearness of consciousness or some part of it. The consciousness or part becomes like an empty cup. Again, the consciousness or part becomes like an empty cup into which something new can be poured. The highest emptiness, again, the highest emptiness is the pure existence of the self in which all manifestation can take place. So this empty cup, empty things that have been repeatedly, it is written here. Against your in the course, this voidness, when we quote on the voidness, that is the basic condition into which the higher consciousness can grow. That voidness, that is the basic condition. Silence and emptiness of thoughts and movements. That voidness, silence and emptiness of the thoughts and movements. That is here in the course. That is the basic condition into which the higher consciousness can flow. If it is not there, if the base is not there, the Aadhaar, the base is not ready, then how this pouring will take place? So this voidness probably is the basic condition in which into which the higher consciousness can grow. This voidness is here in the course, emptiness of thought and the movements. Again, still in the course, to be empty vessel is the very good thing. If you wish to install there the living presence, keep the temple clean. Here in the course, empty vessel. That is a very good thing if one knows how to make use of emptiness. Thing is that it is the best, one of the best condition. It is a very good thing, provided it is somebody should know the use of emptiness. And finally, here in the course, it is only the emptiness there is nothing wrong. If it is only emptiness, there is nothing wrong. Alternation of the emptiness or fullness are a quite a normal feature of experience in sadhana. Anyway, it is a great thing. Thank you. Vande Mataram.